Well, holy cow. One of my greatest friends, one of the people I love most in life, Carrie Wilkerson. It is so great to see you virtually here, but see you and just connect with you again.
It's so good to see you. One of my longest friends in the business.
Well, I've got to let people, for the few people that don't know who you are, it's only respectful for me to give a little bit of your short bio. And I'm going to choose the one because I know you're heartfelt, and you can certainly go to Carrie's website, Carrie Wilkerson. So people get to know who you are, and then we'll dive into our background and kind of what makes us tick, and really why we're doing this today, just having this conversation, Carrie.
Okay.
But Carrie's a wife, she's a mom of four who juggles everything in life just like everybody else does, right? She's like many of you. She has the demands of a family, her health, finances, community. After finding herself over six figures in debt, this is some years back, probably going 20 years back, but we're taking back in time. Overweight, overwhelmed, you decide to take matters into your own hands. Being denied for job interviews and feeling hopeless, you started your first profitable business at home. Gosh, I mean, right there, the sentiments right there of everything that people are going through, have gone through, and will go through just in this last year have got to reach into the hearts of many people. That's why I wanted to have you here. So with no official training, you had two little ones back in the day. Your husband, Eddie, was traveling with his job. You had no startup capital. You just had to dig down, pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Amazing story of what you did. You launched a small business that grew to six figures in its first year. You've now founded several companies, sold companies, paid off all your debt, added two more kids to the mix, which is awesome. And you help people not only believe, but help them actually build part-time or full-time businesses, whether it's on the side or in addition to what they've already been doing. And Carrie, that's really the impetus of my book, which thank you for being here to talk about. It's What's Your Next? The blueprint for creating your freedom lifestyle. It really just goes in the context of where I started with you. I'm going to say that very frankly, 10 years ago when I was trying to figure out my next. And I didn't call it that then, but that's what it was. I found you, Carrie. I found you because you were a person that's out there, a person that I saw so authentic in who you are. You didn't talk about your ego and about look at me and I'm so great. You talked about your vulnerabilities and the things that didn't work in life. And just as I mentioned here, the struggles, the overwhelm, the things that society had tried to label you as that you're got to be this or that. And I was with you, and I jumped into full feet into your mastermind group at the time. Mastermind group, it's a tribe. It's a where Carrie's the facilitator of just like-minded people, all in different areas, different places of life, business, whatever. And it was through the clarity, the conversations that we had that facilitated starting to move me in a direction, because I kind of left one part of life and going to another. And that's really where I feel like today is wherever people are, they don't need to feel stuck. They don't need to feel helpless. There are opportunities all around us. We just got to pull ourselves up and get some clarity. So let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, just your story itself is so inspirational. And you wrote a book about it. I think it's like 10 years, Carrie, since the Barefoot Executive came out. Right? 10 years. I can't believe it. Felt like I just had that book yesterday. I was reading it, and just 10 years ago. But talk about the inspiration and just delve into the hearts of people right now that I think there's a lot of people questioning their direction in life they've been taking because of COVID. I mean, there's good things that come out of this, right? Good things that come out of adversity. So just jump in.
Yeah, well, first I want to say, look back at that mastermind now, and can we look at what's come out of it? We've had you come out of that. James Wedmore came out of that. Lewis House came out of that. I mean, it's really, and how I have not gotten a day older. I don't understand why
you haven't. Truly, you haven't.
I mean, that was really such a great a nucleus there of us brainstorming and pioneering about working at home, which now, of course, everybody is forced to work at home. I've joked this whole pandemic about the fact that this is stuff I've been doing for 20 years, working with an internet connection, working over camera, working virtually, choosing my priorities. And now I'm saying, like the guy on the cell phone commercial, can you hear me now? Or do you believe me now?
Right.
That this is not only possible, but mandatory in so many situations right now. And so what has essentially happened is that the pandemic and politics and the climate right now has educated the whole world on what we've known and what we've suspected for so many years. So my story really, I do appreciate your words about my bio, because the truth is, it always makes me a little bit uncomfortable. I've never been the, do you want to be like me girl?
Mhm.
Follow me and have my life girl. I've been the come with me girl, or let's do you. Let's create your life. Let's create more profitability and productivity while keeping your priorities intact. And your priorities may be very different than my priorities. Now, for our sakes, you and I are both Texans. We are both parents of kids that don't necessarily fit the neurotypical mold all the time. So you and I do have a lot of things in common, a lot of those same priorities. But the fact is, we're at a time where we can choose our priorities, build our businesses around that, instead of the old plan and path of you create career first and then fit your family and your priorities in the cracks. And that's gone. That's gone, and it should be gone. We've aged out of that. Now, I think David and I are really at the forefront of our generation. David, I don't even know what our age difference is. I don't care. I kind of lump us together. But
Well, thank you for that.
we're kind of at the head of our generation for seeing it this way. God bless the millennials. I adore them, but this is not a new idea. We've been trying to figure this out and hacking some of this. So my story is, the truth is, I was also 150 pounds heavier. So those of you that are saying, oh, but she has everything going for her. No, I was 6 figures in debt that I had to tell my husband about. That was a fun conversation. He's a financial planner. I was 150 pounds heavier than I am now. I had 2 children, one with special needs. My husband was gone all the time. My parents had just moved 3,000 miles away, had no support system, no high-speed internet. The internet was kind of still pretty new, and I knew there had to be a way I could leverage my skills, my education and technology, and do something from home. I knew there had to be a way. So I wrote the book that I wish I had then. Mm-hmm. And it's still, even though it's 10 years old, it's still pretty timeless advice on finding your skill set, your awareness, how to get to cash very quickly, and those kind of things. But the fact is, my secret to success, 21 years later, right? My secret to success quickly was failing a lot. And taking lots of chances. And it wasn't about investing in a lot of things. And it wasn't about the newest, shortest cut and all of those things. It really was about failing often and failing fast and not being afraid to look ridiculous and not waiting. Let's think for a minute, David. If I had waited to start a business until my debt was paid off, working a traditional job, I never would have paid off.
Not going to happen. No.
It wouldn't have happened if I had waited until my son Mark had his special needs all sorted out. It wouldn't happen. He's 25 now, and he's amazing, but he's never going to be, normal or healed or independent or those things. So I had to figure out ways. If I had waited until I was an empty nester, well, surprise, I had 2 more later, the old-fashioned way, and I'd still be waiting because I still have 2 in high school right now. So if I had waited, not only would my situation never had changed, but also that tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that I've been able to impact with my book and with stages and with coaching and podcast and interviews and videos and all those things would also still be waiting or listening to somebody else's advice. So one thing I love to challenge people is say, stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect age or stage of you or your kids or your weight, because nobody cares anymore. We've all been forced into this camera Zoom culture with no makeup artists and no fancy angles. I'm in front of my back window with one little lamp on my face, did my own makeup, did my own hair, my own wardrobe. We've all been forced into this really real life amateur video right now. And now is the time to start creating, warts and all, lines and all. Listen, I've got more lines than when David and I started working together, more gray hair than when David and I started working together. And people are craving doing business with people like them, with very real people, very authentic people, less polished people. Yeah. And so you've got to quit waiting. So maybe what's next for you is that you're not waiting anymore. I read a really incredible article this week about women starting businesses later in life. Now, I consider myself midlife, but women starting businesses in their 60s and 70s and doing phenomenally. I know we talked about your sister who is a business owner, and holy smokes, she's aging goals to me. I want to look like her and be in shape like her when I'm her age. She is phenomenal. And the women that are doing it are saying not that they want to be rich, not that they have to have this massive impact, but it's something driving in them that they felt like they wanted to share, an impact they felt like they wanted to have. And I'm saying to you, don't wait till you're in your 70s. Do it now, whatever that looks like now. Even if you have to have a job right now, do it part-time and phase yourself out. But what's next, I think, is not waiting. And I know I haven't paused very much to let you talk, but here's a big, I know that you've had some scary health situations with your family too. Guys, there is nothing that will get your attention faster than mortality. And if COVID hasn't done that for you, if you have not buried anybody because of COVID, it may not be as real to you, but I have buried several people because of COVID, very dear to me. And also, my best friend from college was moved into hospice yesterday.
Oh, no.
She actually kind of introduced me to my husband. She was going to marry him, she said. I changed her mind and introduced her to her current husband, and they have 5 amazing children. They've been married almost 30 years, and now their family is having to say goodbye right now. And we're young, guys. We're not even 50. And so I keep thinking, why are people my age waiting? We're not guaranteed tomorrow. We're not guaranteed next week. We're not guaranteed until the pandemic is over. We're not guaranteed until the stimulus check comes or until the fill in the blank here. So what's next? We've got to stop the waiting, David. And I always respected you so much for that you weren't waiting to have it all figured out. You weren't waiting to have it all perfect and polished. And you took imperfect, quick action. And wow. I mean, you're an amazing success story. And I could not be more proud.
But Carrie, I didn't start out that way. Confession. No, I didn't start that way. And by the way, folks that are with us, type your comments or questions in, because Hannah is working in the background. She'll throw some questions our way if you've got some questions for Carrie or myself. But Carrie, I didn't start out life that way. I was very much a perfectionist, which means if you're a perfectionist, you are going to do things sequentially. Well, I got to get this right and this right and this right before I can do this. Your whole point about doing things simultaneously rather than sequentially is so right on, so to the point. And again, not to have everything just right, because it's never right. You've got to test things. You've got to put yourself out there. The age of authenticity, that is today. That is now, as you just said, get on the camera, get over yourself. Oh, that was a big one I had to learn, because again, I was always in my head. You remember, just speaking in front of our small group. Well, wait, let me check my notes. Let me make sure. No, David, just talk. Would you just talk? Would you just say what's on your mind? Because that's what you've got to do. You've got to get out there and not wait. Everybody's got a story, Carrie, everybody. And people look at other people and say, well, no, I haven't written a book, or, I'm not as big success. Look, if you've lived any part of life, you've got story in you. You've got experience. You've got situations that didn't work out well, but you've learned from those. And the purpose-driven part of our lives, which is, gosh, that's where I feel like I'm at right now, finally, right? And where you've been for many years, the purpose-driven part of your life is sharing with others. Impact. You get to decide, who your tribe is, who you want to help. That's what a mastermind group, that's what people like Carrie do so well, is they can look from that 30,000 foot elevation at all I call the pieces of the puzzle. You help people dump your puzzle out on the table, right? And let's make a new one. Let's create new borders. That's what you're so good at doing, because we can't see it ourselves. We cannot see it. We're in the weeds. And it's like, society's, labeled me as this. I got through school and I got this education, this certification. So society says, this is who I am. This is how I have to behave. It's how I act. It's how my life is supposed to go. No. Right. Don't get over that, right?
Exactly. And so David and I grew up very much where you follow this certain path, and then these are going to be your guaranteed outcomes. And now we've all seen that that's not necessarily the truth. And it's also not for everybody. So one thing that I value in myself as a coach and a parent is seeing that in my 4 kids, there are 4 very different paths. And as I coach people, there are multiple, very different paths. I've had a very different path. I married somebody who's very much,
Eddie,
he's very much
he's like me. Yeah, it's like me.
And so it's really hard for academics, and it's really hard for for licensed people, dentists,
Yep.
doctors, surgeons, to stray from that because you feel like you have to be credentialed or licensed
Right.
or certified. Some governing body has to, like the fairy godmother of business has to wave the magic wand. And, one of the things I always do with my clients is say, listen, if you need that validation, I'll be the fairy godmother.
There you go.
Permission, go do it. The other thing, and David, this is something I remember from our coaching together, which isn't unique, is that David would say, well, so-and-so, when they speak, they do this. And so-and-so, when they speak, they do this. And then you do this. And then you kind of get frozen in your head because everybody is so different, but you're trying to pull in piece from them. I will tell people proudly, I've never had a speaking course. I've never had somebody train me to speak. I very much stand on stage and have a conversation with the audience. It doesn't mean I don't get better at different things, but I've never looked at somebody and said, oh, I want to speak like them. Oh, I want a pattern like that. Ooh, let me break my talk down like that. Never done that because I really always wanted it to be, and still want it to be, Carrie on stage having a conversation with you. And that's the biggest compliment I ever got about my speaking was John Maxwell, the leadership guru, who said to me, Carrie, I've never seen anybody do that before. I've never seen anybody go beyond connection with the audience and converse with the audience. And I thought, okay, I don't want to mess anything up. Let's just freeze it right there. But it's because I wasn't trying to model anybody else. I wasn't trying to be anybody else. And David, I can remember a lot me wanting to shake you by the shoulders and say, David, just be David.
Yeah.
Do what you do. And that's what your people respond so beautifully to, is the authenticity of who you are and how you care for them. You and I are both emotional. You and I both get really highly vested in our clients. And we really care. We care about our planet. We care about our politicians. We care about our faith and our families. And we care about results. And that matters. So I don't think everybody can monetize what they're passionate about. But I think everybody can be passionate about how they're monetizing their life.
Very
if
well
that
said.
makes sense. I think I could be passionate about who I serve, even if I'm not passionate about teeth. I can be passionate about the people I work with and how I'm enabling people to look and feel better. I don't necessarily have to be passionate about dentistry, but I can be passionate about the results. Or I can be passionate about financial freedom later. So I think in some ways our culture has done us a disservice by saying, find what you're passionate about and do that for a business. Well, Miss Fields and her cookies, she might have been passionate about cookies at one point, but I can promise you there are nowadays she doesn't ever want to see a cookie.
That's right, exactly.
See a cookie. She had to at some point get passionate about some business and sharing those cookies. So I think it's really a concern when we think it has to be passion. You can be passionate about being good at what you've already got a skill set for, or be passionate about your family that you're freeing from, the mundane. I became very passionate about offering some choices for my special needs son. Just this weekend, I got back from COVID and all. I just got back from New York City. I flew my senior there. You remember my little singer.
Yes.
Senior, and I flew her there just to take her senior pictures in New York City because she's always been so in love with the stage. So we sneaked out to New York, took some very safe pictures in New York City, and that's one reason I do what I do, so that my kids can have some options. We flew on miles. We did go on the super cheap, but the point is I had the time freedom to do it and some industry connections. So what I want to say to this audience, since you're talking about what's next, I would say sometimes we have to forgive ourselves for what's past.
Good. Very good.
Just because, and I don't remember who originally said this, just because you've spent a long time making that mistake or making that investment or making that path, it doesn't mean you have to stay with it. I don't want you to be a poor steward of it, but it also doesn't mean you have to stay in it just because, but I've been studying that for 15 years. Well, great. How can you apply that to this next thing or this new thing or what else? The other thing David touched on is labels. I'm really passionate about you shaking off the labels that other people have given you. I have 2 children adopted from the foster care system, and they came with so many labels. And I remember being so angry. I still feel it, being so angry at these social workers for labeling them as they handed them to me, and me saying, how dare you? How dare you? Look, I still get really emotional about it. And they're 23 and 25 now. How dare you limit them that way without giving them a chance to break out of that themselves? They told me they wouldn't bond. They told me they wouldn't excel in school. They told me that they would not meet my expectations. So they put labels on me too. And now that 23 and 25-year-old, one got married during the pandemic, and she graduated high school at 16, fourth in her class. She graduated college. She has a degree in psychology. Mark is 25 and working. He does still have extreme special needs, but he is very bonded to our family and does amazing, amazing things in technology. And they defied those labels because they just refused to believe it. Every time Emily started to doubt herself, I would say, you remember we need to prove that social worker wrong, right? You remember that. And I would just kind of poke her with that. And she would. So I've been labeled as too chatty, too talky, too outgoing, too whatever. And I decided to get rid of the too label and become a speaker. You know, maybe I am too much for some people, but those are not my people, right? So you have to be willing to defy those labels. And sometimes those labels, David, are things like broke or struggling or paycheck to paycheck or barely getting by or stupid, always lose things, disorganized, cheater. Maybe you have some big mistakes in your past. Maybe you and your spouse have had big problems in the past. You have to defy those labels and recreate new labels for yourself in your life so that you can move forward in your business too.
And there's a tendency too, Carrie, along that line, for people to focus on their weaknesses, things that they don't do well.
Right.
And well, I need to be a better writer, or I need to be a better speaker, or I need to be better at math or business. And we know you need to focus on your strengths. You can always fill in where you have voids, and you shouldn't try to be all things. You can't be. None of us can be. So I say just really engage your strengths, your God-given talents, and sometimes we don't even know what those are because we've been so indoctrinated into a pathway in life that says this is who you are. I had to learn some things about myself, as a grown adult, that I had been quashed or put aside or boxed away, where I didn't give myself permission to let those passions, those skill sets come out because it wasn't part of the industry standard. It had nothing to do with what I was doing that I was trained to do. You talked about spending so much time in a certain area. I call it, people call it sunk cost fallacy. You put all this time, effort, capital, education, whatever into this thing. And how dare you, how would you ever think about iterating, pivoting away from that, even a little bit, because no, this is who you're supposed to be. And yet, if you live your life that way, you're very much limiting, what your real soul purpose is about.
Yeah. And we should evolve, and we should change and shift and grow and change our interests. And I like to tell people, even when you start a business and or you have a big why, everybody likes to talk about your why, finding your why. Well, your why will sometimes change.
Sure.
My why when I first started was being home with 2 toddlers. Well, now I have no toddlers and I don't want any more toddlers. And now and then at one point my why changed to giving my husband some options. He worked at home with me for 12 years. And then at one point my why became giving my special needs son some options for independent living, safe independent living. And then, so it should evolve and can evolve, and that's okay too. Your wants and desires should change as you do personal growth and those kind of things and age and mature. Aren't we glad we mature? Aren't we glad we get older? And so now I'm at a point in midlife that I'm probably, I think our cells replace every 7 years, something like that. But I think I'm probably a totally different human than when we did business together, when we started doing business together in so many ways. I'm so much more comfortable in my skin. I don't care about being an industry guru or, how many podcasts I get asked for, or being a TV personality or being recognized. The truth is, at my stage in life, I don't want to be recognized. I don't need any of that look at me stuff. As a matter of fact, the millennials and Gen Z have a name for that. The pick me girl. And when you see people coming into business or social media with that the pick me vibe is what they call it, it's a real turnoff for a lot of people. And that's never been my goal. That's never been my goal. I didn't write a book for that reason. I wrote a book because a publisher saw me on social media and said, would you write this book for people? It's always been about helping people, like you said, see the best in themselves, because sometimes a third party person can see something in you that you can't see because of past history, because of past programming, because of the other voices in your head, or because of what you're absorbing on social media or comparing. When you said we tend to focus on our weaknesses, we do. Somebody will say, oh, Carrie has this, this, and this going for her, and I have this, this, and this going against me.
Mm.
So I spent a lot of my early career talking about the things I had going against me, because people needed to know. I had a weight battle. I had a debt battle. I had a special needs child. I had a husband that was gone all the time. I had, all these things stacked against me. And people needed to know and get that I wasn't coming in from a pedestal or a place of perfection. So you've got to quit comparing your weaknesses against their strengths, your bloopers to their highlights. And you have to be willing to just lead with what's strong about you, what's good about you, what's experienced about you, and go from there.
So good, so good. In the book, What's Your Next, I describe what I consider 5 freedom assets. And, assets are something we look at as something of value, something you want to take care of, something you want to encourage or grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
The 5 I list, and we've already talked about these to some degree, some of them. Invest in yourself. I mean, you're a huge believer of that, right? In your business, because a business allows you to, if you build a business the right way, it allows you to do things. As you just said, you're able to take the trip to New York. So business gives you opportunities that you can have. Relationships, I want to hit on that one in a minute. I talk about capital and legacy. Let's talk about relationships, because this is an area that not all, but some people struggle with. I struggled with it early on because I was brought up with the mindset, Carrie, that if you didn't do it yourself, no one else is going to do it for you. So you got to get the grades, you got to go through school, you have to persevere. Good characteristics, no question about it, right? A work ethic, right?
Right.
But the problem is, if you keep that solo John Wayne individualistic approach to life, there's going to be a limit on what you can get done for the reasons we talked about. Well, we can't do everything. We're not good at everything. And so talk about in your life, any part of it, about how much in relationships, certainly family, but the rings of influence, the next rings. Give us a little bit of that, because I know how much that's been important to you.
Yeah, but I first have to go back to this John Wayne reference. My dad and my father-in-law are huge John Wayne fans. I've seen all the John Wayne movies. As a matter of fact, one year with my mastermind, and I don't remember if were you with us in Ireland when we got stranded?
No, I was not. I was not there.
So we went to Ireland, and that's the year the volcano blew in Iceland. And so we got trapped there because there was no air travel. But we actually stayed, had dinner at the castle where Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne stayed during the filming of The Quiet Man. But what I want to say is John Wayne did not hold the camera. He did not write the script. He did not do his own stunts, and he did not do the editing or the marketing. John Wayne showed up and did what John Wayne did. And so that's a lesson everybody needs to write down. If you think you're being John Wayne because you're being so independent, you need to look again at what John Wayne did. But relationships, I will say, and I think David can vouch for this, I will say there's probably no one in the industry I cannot contact. There's probably no one in almost any industry that I cannot reach out and contact. And I say that not because I'm so important. I say that because I've been in the business a long time, and because I've maintained a lot of really beautiful relationships without asking, without insisting or requiring, and without stepping on people and leaving people behind.
Right.
We've seen a lot of that on both sides. I don't leverage people for my own gain. I really lead with love. Honestly, I think people know I love their guts, and they know when they reach out to do something like this, I'm more than happy to help. But I really almost every week get a package or a card or an email or a text or a call from somebody that says, you may or may not know me, but I've been watching for so many years, and I've always just respected this or noticed this, or I heard from somebody who I don't even know who it is, heard from somebody about how amazing you are with your integrity and how you love people in the industry. And that has always been, I always say, please tell my mom and dad that. They would be so proud. My mom and dad would really be so proud at how
They're already very proud of you.
they are very proud, and you've met them.
Yes.
You know them. You know what? Do a business that you're proud enough to bring your parents around, right?
Good advice.
Do business with people that you're proud to bring your kids to dinner with those people. And I've done all of that. I've brought my parents to my events. I've brought my kids to dinner with my mastermind. Yep. We did the luau, right? Yep. The Disney Polynesian. So I have pictures of David with the leg with my kids at a luau. Yep. That's how I have always done business. And the fact that I have some industry relationships that are 20 years old, and some of them, you know, fairly famous people. My sister-in-law the other day tweeted something from Lewis House, and when I said, "Oh yeah, I was his first coach," she just freaked out. She just couldn't believe it. She said, "Well, you've never mentioned that before." I said, "Well, why would I? It would never come up before. Why would I lead with that? That would be silly, you know." But relationships matter. Relationship capital is the most important capital in any business, and I don't mean leveraging it for networking and gain purposes. I mean loving people and keeping in touch with them, and how can you serve within boundaries and what makes sense for you, and how can you care about people, and how can you, if you're a person of faith, how can you pray for people, and how, you know, people are always astonished when I reach out and say, "Hey, you were on my mind," and they're like, "Oh, but I'm not your client anymore." So you're still a human. You're still in my human race. Last time I checked, I think you have to love people. And I think it was Tim Sanders, also a friend of mine, that wrote the book, Love is a Killer App. And it's so true. It's just so true. You have to love people. I haven't always loved what I do at different stages in my life, but I've always loved who I do it with, or who I do it for, or who I serve. And I think that's so, so important. We have a lack of love-based leadership in our country. I'll just leave it there. In so many states and levels of government, we have a lack of love-based leadership. We have a lack of people showing value for relationships and humanity. And so I believe, as business owners, we have an opportunity to unite people, to love people, and to serve people, and to really build kind of a chosen family of sorts. It really can be very powerful, but relationships are important. You cannot be a lone ranger. You have to have relationships.
So good, so good. Well, Carrie, the world is screaming for connection right now, screaming for direction, right? There's been so much volatility, so much disruption, out there, and we're not finished with it. So relationships are key to everything. Find yours, serve the people you want to serve, do it the way that serves you, your lifestyle, your family. Don't get stuck in a rut. Don't get stuck by industry standards or societal expectations, labels, as you said earlier. Those are the things that will trap people in a life of, well, Thoreau said it, quiet desperation. Who wants to live a life of that, right? That's no good. Last question for you. I think it came up even today while we were talking. So somebody has discovered additional passions, purpose within, strength. They've been in a career, a job, whatever. It's been fine, right? But they're feeling this desire to do something else. You said people in their 60s or 70s. It's never too late. But business constructs themselves are not their forte. We talked about weaknesses. Right. So what do you tell that person who's but I'm scared because I don't know anything about business?
This is one time that, first of all, I will say I don't have a business degree, and I've been successfully doing business for over 22 years now. 22 years now. And I have been business coaching for almost that many years without a coaching degree, without coaching certification. Yep. People are happy to help, happy to mentor. Your Small Business Administration is a great resource, in a lot of ways a free resource. There are such a wealth of amazing podcasts and free resources that will help you with some business structures. But what you have to know first of all, don't binge on all of them. Pick a voice in your head. David is a great one. Pick a voice in your head, and know that we're not looking at building a Zuckerberg empire. We're not looking at building the next Zoom. They didn't start out saying, "Ooh, I'm going to build the next Zoom." They started out with their one idea of, "Oh, I worked at WebEx. Here's how I can make that better." And then they did little by little by little. So I never started my business because of a big idea or burning passion or thinking I would make a lot of money. I started just to be home with my kids. And I decided, just like the baby giraffe, when he's delivered and he drops to the ground, he knows he has to figure out how to walk pretty quick or he's going to get left behind next time you're on the move, right? So that's kind of how I figured it out. You can read some books, you can listen to a podcast, you can find somebody who has a business structure the way you want your business to be structured and follow them. I would advise against following somebody with complicated business structures when you're starting out. I read a book a year or so ago called I think it was the 1 Million One Person Business, which is really about a solopreneur without a big infrastructure. Michael Hyatt and I are very good friends. He was the CEO of Thomas Nelson that sought me out to publish my book, and now we're dear friends. I don't want an organization like Michael's organization. He has more than 50 employees, not contractors, and he has an office building and he has meetings, and I don't want that. So I'm not going to learn from Michael how to build that because that doesn't appeal to me. I'm not going to study somebody in commercial real estate if what I want to do is what Chip and Joanna do, and that is flip houses and remodel them. So look very carefully. What are some voices you can listen to? How do they have their business structured? Also, I believe you need good role models, but I also believe you need good soul models. And what I mean by that, and David, I've been saying that for more than 10 years. And I think now in our history, it's more important than ever that you really try to see where somebody's heart lies. I don't want to study with a coach who's never done business with kids at home. Not that they can't help me, but that they can't help me in all those areas. I don't necessarily want to role model after somebody who I don't respect their integrity or their, maybe even their party style or their whatever. I really, I don't have to agree with everything they say. I don't have to agree with all their politics. I don't have to agree with all that. But I do need to resonate on some level with some of their core values. And I need to not throw my core values out the window when I'm looking at how I'm modeling. So if you don't know business, it's okay. Nobody was born, write this down, nobody was born knowing how to do business.
That's right.
Nobody was born knowing how to lead. Nobody was born knowing how to do business. David was not born knowing how to drill teeth. I was not born knowing how to speak. Well, my dad says I was, but I think I got better with age. He did famously say to me, when you're looking at what you're good at or what you should do, my dad famously said to me, baby girl, if you could ever figure out a way to get paid for talking, you'll have it made. There you go.
And there you go.
Thanks, Dad. We did it.
Exactly.
So if you don't know it, you can figure it out. He is also the one that when he decided to put a second story on our house because we outgrew it, he bought the Time Life book series.
Wow.
And figured out how to remodel the house after hours. He was a Coast Guard officer. Nights and weekends, he built the house learning from books.
Wow.
So if Dad can build a house learning from books, I could figure out how to do business from books and videos and YouTubes and podcasts.
Great story. Well, Carrie, sage advice today. You're the easiest person to interview because I think I asked you like 3 questions. And
you want to talk about it, it's on me.
so easy, but so fun. So many great takeaways here. So thanks for sharing the virtual stage with me today. It's so fun to connect with you again. And folks, Carrie Wilkerson, you can tell she serves from the heart. Great person to connect with. Even if you're just looking for some inspiration, follow her, check her out. She's been an inspiration to me and so many other people that I know well. So Carrie, can't thank you enough. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, David. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.